This is question number 4. My question for today is, why is it that some people are really confident and outgoing and other people are really shy and reserved? Now, obviously it's a situational thing where some people in one situation might be really outgoing and in other situations might be really shy. But people have a general way that they lean towards. I'm not going to cover this whole subject, but I am going to talk about something called locus of control, because it's really important and it has a lot to do with people's differing levels of confidence of whether they are outgoing or shy. So I hope to take this kind of complex personality psychology term and make it more accessible and easy to understand. Locus of control is basically, how do you interpret events that happen to you? Are the events that happen to you a result of what you did, or are they the result of something out of your control? There's two types of locus. There's the internal and the external. A person who has an external locus of control draws conclusions about themselves from the world, what happens. A person who has an internal locus of control draws conclusions about themselves from within, and they believe that they have control over their destiny. Whereas external thinks that a lot of things in life, or maybe all things in life, are fate or luck. They don't really have control over what happens to them. But the thing about this is there's no one that's 100% external or 100% internal. They are some percentage one and some percentage the other. You might have someone who's 40-60 and someone else who's 80-20. So I want to start out with a specific example. Say you are going to give a stand-up comedy routine, and you are up there and you're telling these jokes and no one is laughing. Now, what would you think about that? Would you think, I'm not funny? No one's laughing at my jokes. I'm terrible at this. Or would you be someone who would go, why aren't these people laughing? They don't get my joke. This audience sucks. In this example, the person who says, I'm not funny, they have an external locus of control because they're drawing conclusions about themselves based on what's happening in the environment. Whereas the person who's sure of themselves is saying they're not laughing because they just don't get the joke. That person has an internal locus of control. They're finding that within themselves. So the reason why this is important is because it applies to my question about why are some people shy and why are some people outgoing. But I'm kind of targeting people who don't feel like they have control over their lives here. I've spent most of my life thinking that I don't have control over it. Most of the time, things that people say about me are true, especially when I'm hearing that thing over and over again and a lot. It's really hard not to think that that's true. There are pros and cons to each of these things. In general, the internal is better. And I want to emphasize that this is in general. Having too much internal is actually a really bad thing. Now, the reason why the internal is generally better is because you are able to have more success in your life and you're able to do the things you want. Certainly a person who doesn't feel like they're in control of their life can still be happy if they're a positive person and they are grateful for what they have and that sort of thing. Or if they do believe in luck, then they believe that luck is in their favor. But most of the time you can't rely on luck. It's really important that if you're pursuing your dream or something, that when people are trying to beat you down with all sorts of, hater comments, that you don't think, oh, this person said you're a gay homofag, so that must be true. If you have that and you seriously feel threatened by that, you probably have too much external locus of control. So people who have an internal locus are generally more confident, and confidence is key to success. But you can have too much internal locus of control. Too much would mean that you don't give a damn about what anybody thinks about you ever. You go to a job interview in your pajamas, be bluntly honest with people, and often hurt their feelings, and they would have really hard time making friends. Kind of think of the stereotypical douchebag, you know? They probably have too much of an internal locus of control. So again, internal is generally better, and external is generally not as good because you'd often feel powerless. You're relying too much on luck. We all know that gambling is pretty much throwing your money away. So just to finish up here, finding a better balance once you've identified if this is a problem for you in your life. So when someone makes a remark to you about your personality, after that happens, note how that makes you feel. How much importance is that to you, and how much of an impact does what that person says about your personality have on you? Now, certainly it might vary based on who's telling it to you. So take that into the equation. Do you evaluate your self-worth based on that comment? Locus of control is actually a learned behavior. It's not something we're born with. And an interesting question to ask is, how much of personality are you born with? I think it's about 50-50. 50% of it you're born with. You have all these biological predispositions. And then 50% of it is the environment that you're raised in. Something to think about.